Hi, Amethyst Moonflower here, and today is the first day of fall, the autumn equinox, also known as Mabon, and it so much feels like fall today. Like, it's amazing. And I do have planned a ritual for Mabon that I'm a little circle and everything, but I'm doing that later this evening. But right now it's still morning time. It's not even noon yet, and I have the house to myself, and I haven't had an opportunity to be at home by myself in a really long time, and I've been just working and working and working and working, haven't had any days off, and my daughter's birthday party and just too much, all this stuff going on, and I haven't had any time to myself, and it feels like at least a month. And I've been really wanting to make this video, but like I said, I just haven't had any time or the energy or the space to be doing that. But today, because my husband's at work and my daughter's at family, she spent the night with their family last night, so I actually have a chance. And I've been sitting here just with the windows open and enjoying this beautiful fall breeze that's just been coming in the windows and the doors, and watching birds and drinking coffee, and realize, let's do this now. So while I have a chance, because it doesn't happen. But the video that I wanted to make today, that I wanted to talk about, was my personal spirituality and practice. Because I do get a lot of questions about, what I believe, or what I do practice and things like that, where all of this, what I'm interested in. And, I don't want people to be feeling like I'm not sharing enough about myself and being personal enough with you. It's just, sometimes those conversations have to come at the right time, and I feel like right now would be a good time for that. So the name Amethyst Moonflower is my magical name, or my spiritual name, that kind of came to me years ago, and I can't really even remember how it came to me. I just remember writing in a notebook, coming up with different names, and all of a sudden, it just Amethyst Moonflower just popped up out of the page, and I was like, that's it. That's my name. That's not my birth certificate name that my mom and dad gave me when I was born. That's my inside, my spiritual soul's name, Amethyst Moonflower. And I don't know I didn't for the longest time understand the whole meaning behind the name either. I just knew that was the name. But, I did learn over time, what amethyst was good for, and also, the representation and symbolism and correspondences with the moonflower and amethyst. And and some of my spirit animals have come into, my understanding, and how all that really does work with, my own personality and my own ideas of spirituality, and, things like that. So it's really cool how, the moonflower and amethyst came to me the way that it did. And I really do love amethyst. Purple, the color purple itself has always been my favorite color ever since I was a little girl. Purple, just my favorite color, and especially dark purple, which hence the hair. For years and years and years, I always wanted long, pretty purple hair, but I started off by dyeing my hair black when I was in high school, and I just dyed my hair black ever since. And getting black out of your hair is a really long, hard, and expensive process, and very damaging to the hair. And I've already damaged my hair enough over the years doing a lot of different things that my hair can't really afford the damage anymore of trying to strip the black out. So I just continue with the black. But so I ended up buying this hair, and I wear it when when I'm feeling like purple hair is what I really want to be. And it's kind of funny because I'll get into that later, but about why that's so important. But yes, purple's my favorite color, and the stone amethyst has just always been in my life, and it really helps me with a lot of things, and it kind of represents a lot of what I do in my spirituality. So there's that. And if you're looking for some kind of title or whatever, like, we all talk about, what kind of witch are you, or what religion do you practice? Like, everybody's looking for a name. Everybody's looking for that little check box to go, okay, this is what you are. This is what you are. And I don't have a checkbox. Honestly, I don't fit into anything, exactly perfectly. And, I was raised in a Christian home, and for years and years and years, church was a big part of my life, and, Jesus was a big part of my life. It still is a big part of my life, and whether you agree or disagree, if whether or not whatever, that's your opinion, but in my heart, I do still believe in Jesus, and follow his teachings in the Bible and stuff like that. But the church, the Christian church, I don't follow that. Like, there's a lot in the church that I don't agree with and that I pulled away from, and that was the reason why I got on the path of, I started off with just like basic witchcraft when I was a teenager with friends, and kind of like think of like the craft, like Sarah gets pulled into a group full of a bunch of goth girls that are just like into a bunch of weird shit. And, being that she was the lesser educated of them all, she kind of just went along with whatever it was that they was doing. That was me. I was the one that was the less educated one, and so I kind of just did what everybody else was doing. But then, I kind of found myself into dealing with some bad juju and stuff like that, so I kind of pulled back out of witchcraft, because I was about 14 when I got introduced to it, and then I was like, there's a lot of iffy stuff going on here, and a lot of spiritual attacks and stuff like that was going on at the time that was really, really affecting me in a negative way. And I decided, well, you know what, if this is what witchcraft is, then it's not for me, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. So I got out of that, because I didn't want to be harassed by spirits because of the stuff that we was doing, and we wasn't doing it in, a safe way. We wasn't doing things the way that, now that I'm older and that I've studied more, I understand we made a lot of mistakes. We didn't do what we were supposed to be doing, and we dived way too deep into subjects that were way too advanced for us. And, that's just, we made a lot of mistakes. And I pulled out of that, and, but there was still so many questions. And then when I, became around 18, 19 years old, and I had been living on my own for a while, I really needed spirituality in my life. But the church just wasn't doing it for me anymore. And so because it wasn't doing it for me, I wasn't going to church for answers, because every time I went to church, it just felt like I was getting attacked for my own personal beliefs and my own personal opinions, and I was questioning things and had different, points of view for everything, and it just, we wasn't agreeing on a lot of stuff. And they'd be like, oh, well, it's because the Bible says this, and I'd be like, but that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't resonate with me, so I knew that wasn't for me. And then I kind of started my own journey over again. And I just started, reading and studying Wicca. And I didn't, at the time, when I first started reading Wicca, I thought Wicca was just another word for witchcraft, but then as, I learned more that Wicca was actually a path, a spiritual path. And what's also really interesting is that at this point, I never really put too much thought into goddess, as a being, as an existence, as a energy. I've always been raised, there's only one God, and that God is a male, and he's a father, and there's this very masculine energy of the one God in Christianity. And I think that was part of the reason why I was so put back by it, because I was like, there was no room for being a woman in what I was being raised to believe was right. Being a woman was always such you're a lesser person, you're a lesser, everything about you is less than a man, because men are closer to divine somehow than women are, and it just didn't feel right to me. But when I discovered, the goddess through studying Wicca, when I first built my relationship with her, or when she first came to me, I should say, when she first came to me, it was like my heart just melted. I fell in love with her, because the goddess really came to me and really just filled me and held me and was like, look, I am here for you. And there was just something about having that motherliness about the goddess, that she just wrapped her arms around me and she accepted me, and she showed me that women were powerful beings, and women were meant to be powerful beings, and we are divine, and we are sacred, and we are beautiful, and we are all these things, and the moon and everything like that just really, really spoke to me. Working with the moon energies and working with goddess energies has just, it took me right into Wicca. And then, so as I'm studying Wicca for a number of years, you start to learn basic stuff, through different books, like, you just learn all your correspondences, and this is how you set up your altar, and blah, 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 blah. Like, I pretty much had to relearn everything that I thought I knew the first time that, I got into witchcraft. But then, I'm not really much into witchcraft, but more of Wicca as a spiritual idea and a spiritual concept, and, connecting to nature and connecting to your inner self and your higher self, and connecting with universal energetic energies, and how to, correspond things in order to draw or push away whatever it is that you're doing at the time. That was really what got me in, and I've never really been one for doing a lot of spell work. I have done spell work, but it's always been for a very specific thing at a very specific time. I don't go to spell work for whenever, the wind blows and it's like, oh, I need to cast a spell for that. No, I've never been that. I always save spells for something very special, because, it's like, I should always look to myself first and try and do it, in my own means, in the real world, or this 3D dimension that we live in, the Matrix, try to, make sure that you got that job, or at least try, to do everything before turning to magic, or if you feel like it's a really big, important issue, then, you use magic to enhance your own, steps that you're making in your life. And I started, when it comes to magic, my magic is a lot more on the subtle level than on a bigger bang type of thing. So if that makes any sense to anybody. But yeah, I'm very eclectic over the years of me studying and learning, and I've just kind of been very solitary for most of my practicing. I have worked with others, but not in a formal coven type of situation, but I have worked in group settings, and I have been the one that's been the watcher, and then I have also been the one that's been the leader or the, you know, the host of the circle. I've been on both sides of the in and outs, and I love both, because sometimes it's nice to let somebody else take the reins and you know, do that and just enjoy the energy that's being raised, and watch how they do their things and hear the words that they use and their whole process. Because, you know, sometimes it's really easy to allow the ego to take over and be like, oh, well, the way that I'm doing it is just the way that it needs to be done, when really there's so many other ways that things can be done. And it's nice to see other people do what they do and to be in their energetic field, if you understand what I'm saying. So that's another thing that I really like to do. But I do a lot of new age, and like I incorporated new age type stuff, Eastern stuff, Native American stuff. Like I said, you know, I still believe in Christians, or not Christians, but like Christian ideals and angels and, you know, Jesus and that type of stuff, you know, Mother Mary and that type of stuff. I mean, I pulled a little bit of here and there and kind of like wove it in. But I've tried to learn like Celtic stuff, a little bit of whatever, you know, and just mixed it up into my stew pot, like, you know, most eclectic Wiccans do. And I feel like a lot of solitary witches nowadays are eclectic, like majority of them are eclectic, because when you're practicing by yourself and you don't have a teacher telling you what to do, or you're not in a coven and you got this unified concept of what it is that you're doing, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, well, this book looks interesting, and grab it and read it, and then you pull a little bit of knowledge out of it that you didn't get from something else, and then you go get another book and read it, and then you pull a little bit of knowledge out, or you watch a video on YouTube, or an article on the internet, or wherever it is that you're gaining your knowledge from, or even through, you know, just personal experience and going, well, you know, I did that, but I didn't really like how that felt. Or you did do something and you really did like that, the way that it felt. So if you liked it, you keep doing it, and if you didn't like it, then you just stop doing it, or you tweak it to fit how you want it to be. So yes, very, very eclectic. And in my practice, in what I focus on, and you know, what my main things that I like to do in my practice, you know, and incorporate it into, you know, enhancing my spiritual self, is crystals. I'm going to put that at the top of my list. Crystals. I have always been a rock collector from literally young child. Before I had any idea of, you know, magic or spirituality and all that stuff, like literally, like legit 5 years old, outside collecting rocks out of the dirt and bringing them in the house and be like, Mom, look, I found all these cool rocks. And my be like, why are all these rocks in my house? And I would be that kid. And my daughter's that kid. And it's so crazy to watch my daughter be that kid, because I was that kid. And, you know, that's a really emotional experience too, because you're like, wow, my daughter's doing the same kind of stuff that I was doing when I was a little girl. And it makes me feel good because, you know, my mom raised me a little differently than how I'm raising her. So I'm hoping that, you know, by her being in a more open environment, you know, that she can, you know, express herself more openly and more purely as an adult than what even I can, you know, and that she won't struggle with the same, you know, things, because she didn't have all that, you know, pounded, you know, dogmatic stuff pounded into your head from stuff that was, you know, taught to my mom when she was a child, you know, in the 70s and 80s, you know, and her parents from the 40s and 50s, you know, all that older stuff is dying out in, you know, our, what do you call it, our hereditary, you know, karma. You know, the karma that our family carries around. I feel like between, you know, I'm the breaking point. And, you know, what I do to break the chain from the old to allow the new to prosper, so that's really cool. But I got a little off topic there, but crystals have always been a really big part of my, my life. And as I became a spiritual practitioner and got into Wicca, of course, naturally, I'm going to want, all the fancy crystals. And I don't even have as big of a collection. I thought I had a big collection until I started seeing people's collections on, Facebook and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have shit. But I love my crystals, and I feel like, I collect as I go along and whatever I can afford at the time, because crystals, size doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be absolutely the biggest or the most expensive crystal in order to get the same effects of buying a smaller, tinier version of the same one that you're seeing that's going for, thousands of dollars. So, but and this is my newest one that I've added to my collection that I've worn every single day since I got it, and I've had it for a week now, and it's kyanite. That's what it's called. Sorry, I had a moment, but it's called kyanite, and it jumped out at me and it said, "Take me." And at the time when I first saw it, I was like, I can't really remember what its properties are for, but it's telling me that I need it. And so I bought it, and then as soon as I got home, I, looked it up, and I was like, oh my God, I did need it. I so needed it. It was like, take me now, because girl, you need me. And I was like, I'm trusting you here. But yes, I'm really happy with it, and I really feel like it's been making a lot of, positive improvements on myself since I've gotten it. And another thing that I got, crystal related, is this new chakra essential oil bead bracelet, diffuser bracelet, because it's got the lava rock and you put the essential oils on it, which is another thing that I'm really big in, is essential oils. And, that one I kind of gotten into more slowly and a little bit more recently over the last couple of years, is essential oils, but that's because, I've always been kind of like, price tags are a big thing, and when it comes to working with really good quality essential oils, you kind of got to not be afraid of opening up your wallet and spending $60 or something like that on a single little vial. Because if you really think about it, if you're really getting the good quality stuff and the stuff that, I'm not going to promote, but you know what I'm talking about, the good stuff, it's expensive. And there's a reason why it's expensive. And, I don't even have those ones. And I mean, I wish I did. I wish I could afford, that much money on really, really high quality, really, really good, brands, and that I can say that, oh, it's perfectly organic and excuse me, organic and preservative free. I can't, but, I still spent enough money on the stuff that, I have, and it works very well, and I would like to be able to get to the standard where, I can afford to buy better, higher quality essential oils, but I work with what I got, and I'm happy with what I got, and they seem to work just fine for what I have. So, but as I work with those, I'm learning how to create my own blends, and I'm learning how to, know how many drops I should be using for like how big of a vial that I'm using, and different ways that to work with it in a very aromatherapy type of way. And and I'm also really been getting into herbology in a sense of like making teas and incense blends, because for the longest time, I was just like a lot of people and just used sticks and cones. You go somewhere and you buy some sticks and you buy some cones, and that's your incense. But, as I started, gaining more herb collection and a little bit more variety, and I got my mortar and pestle, I would start grinding up these herbs and creating blends, and then being like, well, I got this really beautiful blend. What am I supposed to do with it? And then I realized, oh, that's what the charcoal, you make all these connections anyways. So I got the charcoal, and then I got the plate, and I burned my incense on there. And after I started doing that, sorry, I kicked the camera. After I started doing that, it really made a difference in my practice, because now it's like everything's customized to what it is that I want to do, and I feel more witchy when you're making your own blends and you got all your herbs out. Like, nothing makes you feel more witchy than being like, oh, look what I made. So that's really fun. And so, but I'm also into, divination and working with tarot and oracle, and, that's a process that you never stop learning. Pendulum using and scrying, in a black bowl, or, in the flame, the wax, water. The scrying it comes in a lot of different ways. Tea. I've scryed my coffee before and gotten phenomenal results. So scrying is really just, seeing into something and seeing something else, really. But I've gotten into a lot of divination work over the years and have developed a lot of my own like psychic type skills when it comes to, and following my intuition when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I've gotten into astrology. Well, I've always been into astrology, but astrology was always really hard to get deeper into. But once I got my own birth star chart, a lot of things started making more sense, because now I don't just know my sun sign, but I also know my moon sign. I also know my rising sign. I know, all the different houses, and I know a lot more about myself than I ever thought. And I'm like, when you're sitting there and you're reading your chart and you're realizing how freaking accurate those things are, you're like, wow, maybe there really is something here, because there's stuff in my chart that just nobody would have realized how accurate it was except for myself, and it's pointing out shadows and pasts and like all kinds of stuff, my future and everything. So, astrology has been, drop something, been getting really big in my life the last year, and I've been really trying to study it more. So that's another thing that I've been getting really into, and chakras, auras, energetic healing, Reiki, and those types of things, meditation, journey work, through dreams and meditation, and ascension type things, really trying to raise my vibration and really trying to open up my consciousness and open up my awareness, and, and that's where the Eastern / New Age idea of my spirituality is, because there for a while I hit a wall in my spirituality where it felt like, I wasn't learning anything new. I've been studying for 10 years and I felt like I had learned everything that I could learn, and the books that I was reading, like, it felt like I was getting a lot of the same repeated stuff over and over and over again, and I was like, I need something deeper, I need something more. And I'm like, what is it that I'm missing here? I'm ready for something that's going to take me inward, that's going to really make me think, that's really going to make me expand. And then I started learning about the shift and the awakening and the 5D consciousness and breaking out of the matrix and all this, like, crazy mind-blowing stuff, and a lot of it at first you're listening to it and you're like, man, this stuff is whack. But then you really start listening to it and you're like, wow. And then, you start doing your own meditations and you start doing your own inner work, and and I started to realize that I really was on this journey of unity consciousness with the world, and I might not be as far into my journey as some of the people that are on YouTube talking about their journey, but I am definitely on my, unity consciousness, expanding 5D, freaking, like, there's so much. Every day is is like another chance to level up, man. And it really makes you see the blocks in your own energy too. You realize what needs to be cleared, you know, the habits that are holding you back, and breaking those habits is really the hardest part. You know, like for me, smoking is, I really want to quit, but it's holding on to me so tightly that it's been a real struggle for me to really find that the strength inside of myself to break the chains that have, you know, wrapped themselves around me. But I know that I've been really pushing for it, and I've been really trying to find that so that I can break through those chains. And of, you know, the food and everything like that, there's a lot of, you know, shadow work that goes into ascension. And, you know, when you start working on your shadows, man, a lot of stuff comes up and a lot of stuff comes out. So shadow work definitely has been in my practice for a while now. Like a shadow just keeps popping up one after the other, making me face those, you know, those shadows that I ignored for so many years. And, you know, and being that I am, you know, Wiccan, I do a lot of, you know, moon rituals, and I work with the goddess energy a lot. You know, I'm very, you know, more drawn to the goddess energy, and I do focus on the wheel of the year and honoring the seasons and incorporating that natural seasonal, you know, magic into my practice, because, you know, I just like having this very, you know, complete type of practice. You know, I don't want to leave anything out. Like when it comes to nature, I feel like in order to find a balance, I have to have both. You know, I focus on the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine. You know, inside work, outside work, reality, subconscious, lucid dreaming. You know, trying to constantly have the balance. And that's been also really big, you know, thing that's in my life. And being that today is the autumn equinox, you know, it is all about balance. So, you know, balance has been really big on me. And then I'm also a lot of the magical type of stuff that I like to do. I like to work with, you know, prosperity and abundance. And then I also do a lot of like removing negative energies and personal protection and motivation, creativity. And I also do a lot of self-love, beauty and confidence, and glamour type of stuff. And, you know, glamour has kind of been helping me a lot for seeing myself the way that I want to see myself. You know, like it's kind of, for so long I had really bad self-esteem, self-image issues, and I always thought, man, I'm just not pretty enough, or, you know, I'm just not good enough, I'm just not skinny enough, I'm just, you know, I hate my hair, I hate my face, I hate my legs, I hate this, I hate that. There was a lot of things about myself that I didn't like. And I didn't like not liking myself. I wanted to feel good about myself. And I found, you know, ways to incorporate beauty and glamour and self-confidence and self-love into all these different things to sort of create the image of myself that I always wanted to have. You know, because you kind of like have this idea of who you want to be and how you always want to be seen and how you want to see yourself when you look in the mirror. And when I be an artist, you know, I would draw the same character over and over and over again. How her hair was, how her makeup was, how her clothes were, and all this stuff. And I'd be like, man, I wish I could look like that. I'm gonna keep drawing her, and I wish I could look like that. And it's like, you know, I have kind of created a way for me to look the way that I want to look because it makes me feel good about myself. It increases my self-confidence, and it makes me feel like I can go out and take on the world and not feel like I'm not me. You know, it makes me feel more myself than when I'm not myself, you know, like, because this is a wig, and when I'm not wearing my wig, my hair is short and choppy, and as much as I love it, you know, if I style it just right, but 99% of the time it doesn't look that way anyways, because I work at a job, you know, that I can't do a whole lot with my hair, and so it's like, it's really hard to find a point for yourself personally where you can be happy with who you are as a person, because you know your husband can tell you that he loves you, and your child can tell you that she loves you, and your best friend can tell you that she loves you, and your mom can tell you that she loves you, and everybody can be like, we love you, you're perfect, you're wonderful, you're beautiful. But if you can't look at yourself in the mirror and see what they see, you know, that can be really hard. And I've done what I can do to make myself feel good about myself and to be confident enough to live my life without feeling bad about myself. And who wants to feel bad about themselves? So anyway, yeah, that's kind of more what I'm going for right now. You know, that's what I've been really working on with my spiritual practice, and I hope it all really made sense to you guys. You know, I do crystal healing and energy healing and Reiki and, you know, intuitive, you know, things with people, and, you know, a little bit of spiritual life coaching and things like that. And that's a business of mine that I'm getting up off the ground right now, which I can't wait for it to be off the ground, because I've been working this really, you know, lame 9-to-5 job that is not serving me in any other way besides giving me a paycheck. And as soon as I can get my spiritual business up off of the ground, and I'm actually making the same amount or more, you know, off of what I'm doing with my business, I'm out of there, you know. But my Capricorn rising is like, girl, you gotta be responsible. You gotta make sure you got your family taken care of before you just jump the gun, Pisces. So I got my mother and me always telling me, make sure you got your shit together first before you go jumping the gun. So that's really funny. Sometimes it feels like that in my head. But if there's any more questions or comments or anything else that you want me to know, let me know. If you liked today's video, let me know if you want to see more of what I'm doing here. Any suggestions or anything that you want to see coming up, just leave them in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you all again this evening for the Maybone Autumn Equinox Circle that we'll be having later on in about 8 hours. So until then, love you all. Blessed be.